This is one of the most infamous haunting stories in American history. Unlike a ghost tale whispered around campfires, this one began with a real tragedy, a mass murder inside a suburban home in Amityville, New York. From those murders, a legend grew, a legend of voices in the dark, strange apparitions, violent forces, and a family who swore the house itself drove them away after just 28 days. It is the story of the Amityville Horror. On the night of November 13, 1974, 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. took a rifle and systematically murdered his family while they slept. His parents, Ronald and Louise, and his 4 siblings were shot dead inside their home at 112 Ocean Avenue. The crime stunned the quiet Long Island community. DeFeo claimed at first that the mob had killed his family, but within days he confessed. He later told police that voices in the house urged him to commit the murders. He was convicted of 6 counts of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. But while the DeFeo case might have been closed, the story of that house was only beginning. Just over a year later, in December of 1975, George and Kathy Lutz purchased the property. With 3 young children, they were drawn to the spacious house, complete with swimming pool and boathouse, at a bargain price. The realtor disclosed the murders, and the Lutzes acknowledged they were uneasy about it, but the opportunity seemed too good to pass up. They bought the home for $80,000, moving in just before Christmas. Almost immediately, they felt that something was wrong. The atmosphere inside the house was oppressive, heavy, as though the air carried a weight. George, a businessman, began to notice strange chills. No matter how much he stoked the fire, the house remained freezing. He would wake every night at 3:15 a.m., the approximate time Ronald DeFeo had slaughtered his family. Kathy felt an unseen presence watching her, breathing down her neck. Their children spoke of imaginary friends, one in particular, a pig-like creature named Jody, who they said appeared with glowing red eyes. Other disturbances grew harder to ignore. Doors and windows slammed open and shut with violent force. Black stains spread across toilets and sinks, impossible to scrub away. Strange green slime oozed from the walls, thick and foul-smelling. Swarms of flies appeared in the middle of winter, clustering in rooms where no food or warmth should have drawn them. George became withdrawn, irritable, and obsessed. He lost weight and grew unshaven, spending hours staring into the fire. Kathy experienced terrifying nightmares about the DeFeo murders, waking in tears. She claimed to feel invisible hands touch her and even push her down. The children's beds were said to lift off the floor. Objects moved on their own, crashing across rooms. One of the most disturbing reports came from the children's playroom. Kathy said she saw a pair of glowing red eyes staring in through the window. When George ran outside to investigate, he found cloven hoof prints in the snow circling the house. They matched the description of Jody, the demonic pig-like figure their daughter insisted was her friend. The family grew increasingly terrified. Priests were called for help. Father Ralph Pecoraro visited the home to bless it. In one of the upstairs bedrooms, he claimed he heard a deep voice command, "Get out." He urged the family to leave, but his blessing did not end the activity. In fact, the Lutzes believed it grew worse. Night after night, George woke at the same time, pacing the house, hearing phantom noises. Kathy reported levitating off the bed. Crucifixes on the walls were found twisted upside down. The family dog, usually calm, snarled at corners as if tracking an invisible intruder. Doors splintered and cracked as though hit with tremendous force, but no one was there. The family's final days in the house were a blur of terror. George described marching vans thundering through their living room in the dead of night, only to vanish when he turned on the lights. Kathy claimed she aged decades in minutes, her face transforming into that of an old woman before returning to normal. One night, they said a slime-like substance poured down their staircase. The Lutz family fled in January 1976, leaving behind furniture, clothes, even food on the table. They never spent another night inside 112 Ocean Avenue. What happened next turned their ordeal into legend. The Lutz family met with author J. Anson, who wrote The Amityville Horror in 1977. The book became a bestseller, presenting their story as a true account of a haunting that followed a mass murder. Hollywood quickly adapted it into a film in 1979, and the Amityville Horror became one of the most enduring names in paranormal folklore. Investigators also descended on the house. Among them were Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous paranormal researchers. Lorraine later said she felt an overwhelming sense of evil in the home. A photograph taken during one of their investigations appeared to show a boy peeking from a doorway, though no children were present at the time. The Warrens were convinced the house was infested with a demonic presence. Skeptics, however, have always challenged the Lutz's account. Some argue the family fabricated or exaggerated their experiences, possibly motivated by financial difficulties and the lure of publicity. Others note that no later residents of the house reported similar activity. Lawsuits were filed between the Lutzes, their associates, and critics, further muddying the story. To this day, debate continues. Was it a hoax, a shared delusion, or a genuine haunting tied to the violent murders that stained the home? Regardless of the truth, the Amityville Horror has secured its place in popular culture. It spawned countless sequels, remakes, documentaries, and investigations. The iconic Dutch colonial house, with its quarter-moon windows staring like eyes across the street, became a symbol of supernatural dread. Even after its address was changed to discourage tourists, people still traveled to Amityville to glimpse the house where the Lutz family claimed to battle evil. What makes the story so compelling is its blend of fact and mystery. The murders undeniably happened. 6 lives were brutally ended inside that house. Ronald DeFeo Jr. himself claimed voices compelled him to commit the murders. The Lutzes swore under oath that they endured horrors no family should ever face. Investigators recorded their testimonies, captured photographs, and walked away shaken. Skeptics insist there is no physical proof, only fear and belief. For George and Kathy Lutz, the horror was real. They never returned to the house. They built new lives but were forever linked to the story. Kathy passed away in 2004, George in 2006, both maintaining until the end that they had spoken the truth. The Amityville Horror endures not just because of the films and books, but because of the unanswerable question at its heart. Did evil truly manifest inside that house, or was it created by human imagination, grief, and desperation? Decades later, the debate still rages. Paranormal researchers continue to cite it as one of the most famous hauntings in history. Skeptics continue to dismiss it as a hoax. And the house on Ocean Avenue remains a silent witness, forever tied to the name Amityville and the darkness that once lived within its walls. What is undeniable is the power of the story. It begins with real bloodshed and spirals into a chilling tale of supernatural terror. For some, it is proof that evil leaves a stain that cannot be erased. For others, it is simply a reminder of how fear can consume us, shaping reality itself. But whether true haunting or elaborate fabrication, the Amityville Horror has secured its place as one of the most terrifying and enduring legends of the modern age.